I'm super excited. Well, we're going to do our introductions, but I'm super excited because Jennifer has an incredible amount of wealth, and she's going to be sharing that. I'm going to be the dummy up here asking the questions because I don't have a marketing background. And when we get to my slide, I'll tell you a little bit about myself.
So hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm the marketing director here at CWC. I've worked in communications and marketing for most of my career. And I'm just happy to be here today with you all.
And I work with University of Wyoming Extension. I'm a community vitality and health educator, so I've done a lot of work with government entities and nonprofits, some in the realm of communications, but not specific to marketing. Obviously, they're in general not selling their business, but they all have a message that they have to work with others and get that message out.
So there's 4 P's of marketing. Communications is one of those. You always look at what is your product. So we're going to talk a little bit today about each of your products. What is the price? And then you also figure out where to place all your advertising. And so we're going to go through those 4 P's of how to run a successful marketing campaign.
So when I was an undergrad, I did take one marketing class, and for me, this was like the biggest concept that I took away was this idea that, before I took that class, I thought of marketing as, okay, advertising. You just think advertising, you're advertising your product. But when I took that marketing class, I realized it's everything. It's deciding what product you're gonna have, how your product is different than others, where you advertise it, the public relations aspect of it, even the pricing. I had never considered pricing and how you price it as part of marketing. And so this was really, it was really eye-opening for me when I first saw this.
So basically, when you look at this, your advertising, your public relations, all of that is at the end. You're really going to build your business strategy. What is your product? Here, what I'm selling is enrolled today. I'm selling Central Wyoming College. And working on the price. For example, we're marketing a farm program on our Lander campus, and guess what the price is if you want to join us? Free. It's all by grants, so that's a great price. And then you figure out the location, what's your target audience, and then you come up with, you actually deploy whatever campaign that is. And that does include public relations, which is a big part, and it's free, earned media, which we'll get into.
So we're going to walk through a communications plan, and so we share the components of it. You have to have the purpose of that communication plan. Why are you communicating? And so we're going to actually, just a minute, you guys are going to share with us. You have to know who your target audience is, just like Jennifer was saying. What message are you going to be sharing? What message do you want people to hear? How are you going to get it out there? What communication channels? For those who were in the presentation yesterday, she talked a lot about social media, email marketing, and so all those, Jennifer's a wealth of knowledge on those, and we'll talk about those as well. And then the timing of it, when you do it, and then who delivers that for you. So we'll get into all those components. But before we do, we want to hear from you. What do you guys see as some of the reasons to communicate? And let's go ahead and get into a group, 2, 3, whoever's near you. Visit with them for just like 30 seconds and come up with a list of all the reasons your business might want to communicate. What types of things would you want to communicate about? So, small group, 2 to 3, whoever's nearby. Go ahead behind you.
Not only tell people nice to provide something, communicate with them.
Yes, so it's really interesting. Ocean Springs.
So it'll be interesting to me too, because I'm figuring out. So my big thing is like a lot of my communication is like that. So I think that's part of the communication so well.
Like driving these,
Yeah.
I'm not driving these nuts, you know.
Nope.
You're good.
I'm Amanda.
Hi, Amanda, and you're with University of
Yes.
Wyoming?
Yep.
Nice
Just
to
till the
meet
end
you.
of the month.
Oh, and then what?
And then I am going to, I don't know, be mom, do some private consulting here and there.
Oh, cool.
And, yeah.
And where do you live?
I just live south of Lander, out by Red Canyon.
Okay. Yes, yeah.
People recommend you.
You know, chickens are
Okay, about 5 seconds.
easy to care for, but they're also not sometimes.
Okay, what group would like to share first? And we're just going to share one thing, and we'll go around a couple times. That way everyone, in case you have the same things. Who would like to share one of the reasons why they might want to communicate?
Well, people don't know what you have to offer.
So tell them what you offer. What else? So the next group.
Showcase your product. Probably a little bit. Is your product for
Showcase,
sale.
okay. What else?
You need to tell them how to buy it.
How to buy it. So make a sale.
Value proposition.
Okay. What else? Anything else? Did any group I missed?
So it's a basis for information exchange so that you have a common understanding and it builds relationships.
I'm going to break that into two because I'm going to put the relationships, build relationships. So no one mentioned employees. So when we think about communication, it's easy to fall into the we're communicating to make a sale. But you might be communicating to people who are going to give you money, maybe investors, maybe a loan officer, and so you have to communicate about your business to them. Maybe you are looking for employees and you're hiring and you're trying to communicate to them who you are and what you do to entice them to come. Maybe you're having to lay off employees and so you're having to communicate to them about that. So there's a lot of different reasons why you might communicate. Let's see if I missed any. There could be a crisis and you're trying to let people know what happened and what you're doing and how you're addressing the crisis. And so when we think of marketing per se, it might just be focused on marketing your product, but when we're talking about strategic communications, it's building those relationships and making people have a common understanding of who you are and what you do and why you do it, which goes into your marketing and helping you to sell a product.
Do you all have anything to add in the background?
We were part of this group.
Oh, we're all the same group, okay. Great.
So what about target audience? Who are your target audience?
We didn't get that far.
Well, I'm asking now. Who's your target? So when you think about we talk about why you communicate, who might your target audience be? And you don't have to be specific. So like yesterday, went into specifics thinking about who your personal target audience was for your product. But in general, who might your audiences be?
Customers,
Customers?
the neighbors.
Yep, neighbors.
Producers. Funders.
Technical resources, like when you have questions on whatever.
Yeah. So as we talk about the why you're communicating, that will dictate who you're communicating to. And so customers is going to be a big one, but there's going to be all these others. It could be the neighbors, just the community in general. And so it's really important to think about, who you're communicating to, because you're going to do it in different ways. And they're going to want a different message. And when we get to the channels, you're going to get to them in different ways. So when you think about, now thinking about your product, what you do, does the customer and the funder want to know the same thing? or I guess, what can you see being different about what the funder might want to know about your business versus what a customer might want to know?
That's profitable.
Sustainable, and you said profitable? Yeah. I mean, the customer might want to know that it's sustainable. I mean, if they're, if you're selling to a restaurant, they're going to want to know that if they order from you today and they put it on their menu, you're also going to have it next week, next month. So there's going to be some overlap. But if you're selling to, say, a tourist who's coming through and picking up, maybe you're selling salsa and you sell them a jar of salsa, they're probably not as concerned about your sustainability, whereas your loan officer or your investor would be. So really thinking about, again, why are you communicating? And there's going to be lots of messages and who to and what they care about. Okay, so then we're going to talk about your message. So now that you know who, why, what your objectives are, what you're trying to communicate, we're going to talk about your message. However, hold your horses. I put that slide in there intentionally. Before you really talk about your message, we have to go back to what Jennifer was saying, is your product. Because as these big businesses, we all know what Pepsi is. We all know what Safeway is. But as a small business, you have to differentiate yourself. And so I did this picture here. I mean, if you look at the picture, there are different batches of rolled oats. Other than the quality of the picture, I mean, I don't really see much of a difference, except for the price. And so this is a small producer. I heard that they recently sold. They're actually here local, I'll tell you in a minute. And that was the price of a product at Safeway. Now, the difference between these two, so this is a gluten-free organic rolled oats, and that's organic rolled oats. When I looked at it, look at that price difference. The same company that made the organic rolled oats also made a gluten-free organic rolled oats at 34 cents an ounce. So it's getting closer to this one. So the most expensive one was actually out of Powell from gluten-free oats. And I knew about them because I did a tour there. And at the time, it was owned by the company that started it. And I remember the father telling the story about his son who had celiac and the difficulty they had in finding truly, a product that wasn't contaminated with gluten, because oats obviously don't have gluten naturally, but they were having trouble finding products that weren't contaminated. So they started the business. I did hear that they sold it, but they differentiated themselves at the time. And so thinking about your businesses, and go ahead, this one you'll do alone. But I want you to ask yourself and take some notes. What makes your business different and your product different than your competitors? And when you're thinking about that, when you're thinking about your business and what makes you different, think about your values too. Because that can also differentiate, and that can be important for other types of communications. Like when you're going to funders, there could be some value. They might care about the values of your business, what you stand for. So go ahead and take about a minute to write down what differentiates. And it doesn't matter if it's because I think some of you here may not be actually in business. I think Jennifer said, was there?
We have enrolled today. We have some loan officers.
Yeah.
We have CWC, but you guys are selling a product. So I mean,
even if the product you don't sell it for a dollar value, you're still wanting people to utilize it. So what differentiates? And then we're going to go around the room and share. And then even for a loan offer, why should I choose your bank versus another bank? Why should I go with you guys versus someone else?
I guess you could do your chickens. Why are your chickens better than others?
Oh, why thanks for that.
Why CWC instead of LCCC? Or why CWC instead of a college maybe in Nebraska or in Montana? We don't want to get too much rivalry here.
Like crickets.
I know, they're working.
Because it worked.
I smell everyone thinking.
You smell that burnt toast smell?
I do, I have a sensitive nose. So make sure not only about the product itself, but the underlying values of your business. Because really, when you think about those oats, there's really, I mean, there's a lot of rolled oats on the market. And a lot of them are gluten-free and tested to make sure that they're not contaminated with gluten. A lot of them are made organically. So what makes this one different than another one?
I think that's a little bit of a, so as I think about this, why CWC? That's not a generalized answer. It's why are we providing a solution to your particular problem? And so understanding what that is, and that's going to be different here, there, and there. So, you know, it's always difficult when you try and come out with that one broad thing, when really what it is I want to know who my customer is,
Right.
and I want to solve their particular issue.
And so for a large organization like CWC, it might be, so like, I'm going to pick on Melissa. For Melissa's new position and new program, why your program? Why should people come to you and get help from CWC for what you offer? Why shouldn't they go to SBDC or hire a consultant or on and on?
Yeah, you know, I guess I've never looked at it that way because I don't see me as their final solution.
But why should they come talk to you at all?
Because she's free.
So that's the price.
Price
So
point,
what I'm
right?
hearing, like
Yeah,
a lot of
price.
things here is that the whole product, that you've got the product, you've got the price, and you've got the location.
Yeah, and I think
Right.
I got the price and I've got the location.
Right.
I don't think I have the product, because what I do a lot with folks is I connect, you know, I work with folks in local foods and I connect them to maybe generally someone who's much better than me at their particular thing that they need advice on.
So I venture to say,
That's my
because
product, I'm connection and I'm
Right.
free.
that, yeah. But I think sometimes we over-rely, especially for people, organizations that give stuff free. I mean, I work at Extension, we do a lot of free. We over-rely on it being free. Sometimes people value things that they have to pay for, or they think that they have more value. And so, in your case, you have better connections. You will connect people better than anyone else. What about someone who's doing a business? What differentiates your product?
Mine was like helping every client as my family, you know, like not just treating them as a number to put money in my pocket, because there's plenty of other realtors out there that'll do it for less of a commission.
Yep.
But even though I may charge more, I know and because we use that a lot, is the value proposition.
Yep.
What makes my business and my knowledge of the field better than somebody else's? Not just that I charge less, I treat them like my family, I'm knowledgeable about my subject, all of the above.
So yours is on your underlying values. You're going to treat them like family.
Yep.
Excellent. Anyone else? What about you guys? Why should I get a loan from you instead of someone else?
So typically people come to us because we have lower interest rates than traditional lending since we're federal. But I think also just because we're knowledgeable about the programs, we can help our borrowers kind of fill out all the applications. We're local. We really want, you know, they kind of depend on us for operating money and, you know, things to get their livelihoods going. And so I think kind of the same ties in, like close relationships and yeah.
And we're definitely directed out like beginning farmers and ranchers or people who are struggling, and we also try and help them better their business plans, just over time help them improve their business.
So it's not just price, because really, I mean, if someone went online, probably maybe find a cheaper loan someplace. But it's not going to come with someone here that will help you with your business plan, that will talk to you and, you know, be there for you. And so
The customer service
Yeah,
component,
yeah.
where you're gonna be there and assist them with applications and.
yeah. I mean, sometimes, you know, Pepsi's, I don't know what the the sugar substitute is in Diet Pepsi versus in, well, I know in Diet Coke, it's aspartame. I like the flavor of aspartame better. So in this case, I'm simply buying the product based upon the product characteristics. But when I work with a real estate agent, I work with a bank, if I'm buying, food, if I'm using a service, even if it's free from a community college, I'm looking at the value, how much, is it more knowledgeable? You might be free, but if you don't give me good connections, I might go pay someone who can do that for me. And so we over-rely on the price, and I think it's really understanding what you're providing, not just the description of your product, but who you are and what you stand for in your business. And that will become particularly important when Jennifer talks about crisis communications. Okay, so now that you know the different reasons why you're communicating, who your potential customers are, what your product is, we're going to put together what's called an elevator pitch. And the idea behind it is that as you're riding up in an elevator, by the time you get to the floor, you meet someone, and by the time you get to the floor and get off, you have told them a really quick synopsis about your business, what you want them to know. This could be anyone. Now, if you're in New York or going up the Empire State Building, you might have a lot of time. If you meet someone in Wyoming and you have an elevator ride to share with them what you're doing, you don't have very long at all. Because I don't think
What
still the
building
case.
has an elevator?
This one
does?
Yeah, you've got 30 seconds.
Yeah.
The Laramie,
I've never taken it because I've always got
yeah. The Laramie County Courthouse has 4 floors. The new building at LCCC has 4 floors. I don't know if there's any other building that's taller than those.
First Interstate Bank in Casper.
Okay, how many
I
floors?
think they have 6 floors, I think.
6 floors.
Maybe 5, I can't remember.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have very long. So what I want everyone to do, there's no specific formula other than you have like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, to say who you are, who your business is, whether you work for them, whether it's your own, and to be able to tell someone what you do and what makes you different. So we're going to give you 5 minutes, no more. And if people start getting done earlier, and we're going to be here to help, then we're going to share them. Because you should be able to say, like for instance, I'll give you my elevator pitch. I'm Julie Daniels. I work for University of Wyoming Extension as a community vitality and health educator. I work with individuals and groups to help them to work together so that they can make their communities better. That's my elevator pitch. I've also had 15 years to perfect it. Well, 15 years to get it so I can spit it out easily. Don't know if it's perfect. So come up with an elevator pitch that's for your business, that's personal to you. You'll have 30 seconds, maybe a minute with someone to tell them who you are and why they should work with you, whether it's because you're free and you provide a service, you provide a service that they end up paying for, you're selling them something that they pay for. So, okay. Any questions about that?
This one actually, she journaled, so it's a Forbes article. I asked questions. So the way that I come up with is more public relations is part of our, it's one of the pieces.
That's a good way to start, yeah.
What is it, public relations?
Because so you give them a little bit. So then you get a little bit about
So that's fine.
3 more minutes. Any questions? How's it going?
I've been doing this for 20 years. I've got my pitch. Be smart about it.
Nope, that's okay. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we have to do it for everyone, so some people have it, some people don't.
We could probably use some upgrading.
Who are you with? What, who are you with?
I have my own landscaping business. And I just moved to town, so I'm gonna be pitching a lot.
You about ready to hear? You good? You ready? Okay.
I do it kind of like every week. I have a networking group.
Yeah.
It's kind of cheating.
No, it's okay. I mean, people are at different places, so it's just making sure that everyone, by the time everyone leaves, they have one. You guys need more time, or you're good?
We're good,
It's the same. It's part of the person.
Yeah.
I understand that every time I stand up and my knees go, no, not good.
But you know what consultants do test, so,
So here's my goal, just to sustain, like if you're, whatever your budget is. So if you're just coasting along, you want to devote 3% budget, if you're launching a product,
make it up.
7% squeak out real quick, it's a market. You know you're taking it.
Okay. Let's go ahead and start wrapping them up. It's okay if it's not perfect. I mean, you didn't know you were gonna have to come in here and give an elevator pitch. So, any volunteers someone willing to share their elevator pitch? I know I've got a couple who already came in with them prepared. Okay.
My name is Caleb Smith. I work with the nonprofit Enroll Wyoming to help people find affordable health insurance and community resources to help meet their personal needs.
Perfect. Thank you. Who's next?
I'll go. My name is Mason Rivera. I'm a farm and ranch realtor with Coldwell Banker Legacy Group. I serve services for all of Wyoming, and I help people buy and sell plots of acreages, agriculture, rural, anything, farm and ranch or ag community related.
Excellent. Thank you. Who's next? Go ahead.
Yeah, so my name's Jamie, and don't taxes and tracking financials suck. So I'm a CPA, so super fun at parties, but that's a little bit of a litmus test. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to financials. I enjoy bridging the gap between people who are not financially literate and the CPA, so I can speak the language of both, and that's what I enjoy connecting. And if I can have 15 to 30 minutes of your time, I can show you the free templates that I give everyone in Excel, and walk you through it and see how I can customize it to your needs.
Perfect. Great. I like how they included an ask. Ask for the time. Who's next?
Sure. My name is Grace Lutz. I'm a recent graduate of CWCA's culinary program, currently pursuing my bachelor's in organizational leadership with an emphasis in entrepreneurship. I work at a fine dining restaurant in Jackson, Snake River Grill, as a chef and sustainability ambassador. We partner with local farms and ranches as well as composting organizations to provide closed circle products to foodies and food connoisseurs in the area. So.
Great, thank you. Who wants to go next?
Again. Hi, my name is Kathy Rosenthal, and I'm with Cooper Family Farms here just north of Riverton. Our family raises sheep, produce, and alfalfa grass hay. And everything we do is local, fresh, and raised with a passion to keep things local, direct to consumers who we value greatly.
I like how you put in your values. We value our consumers and the local and the fresh. So you told people not just what you do, but why.
I'll go next. I'm not going to do my CWC role, but the other hat that I wear, the chicken hat. So I'm Melissa, and I have a chick hatchery, and I started it because here in Wyoming, our rural mail is slow enough that a lot of chicks die in the mail when they're shipped in. And so folks aren't, I know it's so sad, isn't it? Baby chicks dying. And so I think it's really important for us to have healthy, unstressed chickens for folks who want to use them for their backyard flocks or for egg production. So I chose heritage breeds for my hatchery that are suitable to the Wyoming climate, especially with a winter like this. They're all dual purpose, so they're both good for egg and meat production. And do you have chickens?
No, but if I am allowed to get some, I'm going to get some of yours because I like meat and eggs.
One thing that Beth and I were talking about, hopefully we're not too loud, is how we often ask questions before we launch into the entire elevator pitch, so we know how to focus it.
You may not have time on an elevator if you've just met
your
someone.
target audience. So you've heard that this guy, the person, the female you're talking to is incredible. She's got great investor, and you need money.
Yeah,
So,
then you go to the investment side of it.
Yeah.
One, that's my chick hatchery. Yeah, but one of the things, because I sell live poultry, but I also sell packaged meat birds. So I often do a little question like, oh, do you have chickens? And like if they do, I'm like, oh, what breed do you have? And, but if they don't, then I'm like, oh, this is my packaged chicken. So
And as soon as we're done with the
we
elevator
have
pitch.
time, but if you only have 6 floors or whatever.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. I mean, if you only have 6 floors, you have to get them engaged enough so that they say, hey, let's talk some more. And so as soon as we're done with the elevator pitch, Jennifer's going to talk about your messaging, which is then where it goes back to really knowing the who and the why so that you can tailor it. But if you've just met someone and you only have a few minutes, you need to be able to tell them who you are and what you do and what you stand for. Especially if they're going to be leaving in 30 seconds.
1 floor, yeah.
Yeah, 1 floor. Okay. Who's next?
I could go. I can say, so if you've got just the quick, but I rarely, if ever, do this. What I would say, I'm Beth Montero, Executive Director of the CWC Foundation. My role is to maximize the private and public support for the amazing work of CWC in serving its communities. But I would rarely ever do that. I would usually say, hi, I'm Beth, I'm with CWC, tell me about you.
I know that with fundraising, she's always asking her questions and getting to know.
Yeah. Because I will get their business card before we get out of the elevator. And then follow up with them.
And by the way, your business card, I hope everybody came to this event with business cards, or even your e-signature, that's part of your brand. Wherever you go, you're giving people your card, all your email. There's a great marketing tool right there. Use it, it's free.
Couple more minutes, and we've got a couple more. A couple over here haven't, a couple over here. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Carrie Stanger, and I'm actually here trying to help my stepson to get agricultural, produce a product and help him to bring it to market. My bachelor's degree is in marketing, so. But for this, I just decided to do like a virtual product. So basically, and this is something that's a hobby that I've kind of made into a little side business, but it's not something I'm doing really professionally. I'm basically retired at the moment. So anyhow, a personalized family genealogy concierge service that I provide with record preservation as well as audio, video. So basically, from slides to photographs, things that are damaged, I'm able to restore and edit and bring people back to life, bring your ancestors back to life and relate it to who you are today, and break genealogical barriers, with DNA testing, and so. But it's like a personal service where I'll actually, if you want to go to the person's home and help them go through.
Very cool. Thank you. Anyone else from this side of the room willing to share?
No.
No? Okay. Are you willing to share yours?
Sure. Yep. My name's Alicia. I'm with Cottonwood Creek Wool. I actually have a table upstairs. So my business started because we are a sheep producer, and the waste wool from shearing isn't really worth much. So we were looking at a value-added product and came upon pelletizing that wool for a soil amendment. Wool holds a lot of water, so when it's pelletized and mixed into soil in your garden or potted plants, it helps hold the moisture in the soil, which is pretty important in a dry area like Wyoming.
Thank you.
I'm Kelly Emmett. I'm a farm loan analyst for the Farm Service Agency in Worland. And technically, we're not allowed to promote ourselves. We're not supposed to compete with the banks, but I'm just going to pretend for this scenario that we so we offer low interest farm operating and ownership loans. We don't usually require down payment. So it's kind of targeted for beginning farmer and ranchers that are just starting out. We kind of walk through everything with them, the application, all the financials, kind of give them an area to start. Kind of one of our taglines is keep farmers farming and ranchers ranching. And with the rising costs here lately, with everything, that can be difficult to do. So we kind of help everyone out in that case. So. Thank you.
Last but not least.
Yeah, I kind of struggle with this one because we aren't allowed to pitch ourselves and compete.
But it's also just telling someone who you are and what you do.
Okay. Okay, my name is Mary Walsh. I'm a farm loan analyst for Farm Service Agency, which is a branch of USDA. So our mission is to help farmers and ranchers who cannot reasonably obtain funding to keep operating and expanding their businesses and improving their businesses.
Nice. Thank you. Okay. I think it's just good to kind of revisit that. I've changed mine. I used to say to help individuals and groups identify and address community concerns. It's a little on the negative side. So I'm slowly changing that to help individuals and groups work together to make their communities better. It's just a little more positive. It's an elevator pitch isn't static. And it's just one of your short messages. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jennifer. She's gonna talk about messaging.
So, for key points, is there next slide, the key points?
Push it the wrong way. There you go.
So, let's see, what are the key messages? We've talked about that a little bit, let's see, so it includes information and questions about your product and your business. If you're having an event, how do you market that? What are the key points? So why would I want to come to your event? Are you trying to sell something? A little bit later we'll go into actual what's really good advertising. So what I see a lot of people do when they're trying to market an event or a product is they try to put everything into the ad or into their message, and that's not good advertising. You want one strong image, you want to send people to your website, you want to make it really compelling, and it's the same in media relations. So less is more for all of that. And I know actually when you look at our symposium poster that my department helped put together, we had everything there. But that's okay, because you all came. But sometimes, you know, people feel like we have to put all of the information in everything we do, and I just encourage you to, if you're trying to market something, just simplify and make it beautiful and compelling. And then the next slide, I think is mine. Okay, so marketing and public relations is part of marketing. So marketing is the full enchilada, and we'll talk a lot about that. It is coming up with your brand. It is doing the ad campaign. It is your website. Just like I talked about, your business card and your e-signature are all part of your marketing. Public relations, which we'll talk about a little bit more, is super important. It's a third-party endorsement, so all of you getting to know your journalists in your target markets and pitching stories to them and making it easy for them to write about you is really important. So we'll also talk about crisis communications, but PR is basically creating good press releases. Every journalist that you work with is going to be a little bit different, but you're not going to just cold call them. You're going to give them a nice one-page press release with whatever it is, the subject that you're trying to pitch, and then a couple good quotes, and then you're definitely going to want to provide great images to tell the story too.
Jennifer?
Yes.
So if, thinking about some of these people who have their own, like, holistic, doing chickens, when would she want to pitch to a journalist that she's got an interesting story? Is it just that she exists?
Yeah.
Or is it something that's going on?
I would say when you launch your business, that's a great story right there. Why did you decide to launch this business? What's the need in the community? So launches are really important and a great way to get the story out.
An anniversary is too, if you're sitting there going like, oh dang, I didn't do well when I launched the business. It's not too late to, surviving that long should be celebrated.
And just depending on how big your business is, I used to run a PR firm called the Marshall Plan, and I would, for each client that would hire us to do public relations campaigns, I would commit to at least 2 press releases per month. And I'm not pitching the same press release to the same journalists. I'm figuring out, okay, as I'm thinking, where do I want to land my stories? So, for example, here we have so much going on at the college. So we have a campus in Jackson. We do a lot of work on the Wind River Reservation. Sometimes I will pitch stories only to Wind River News. And then other times, it just depends on, I don't write one press release and hit send to every single journalist every time. I try to figure out where I'd like to see things land. And then in that process, after you've written the great press release, that's not the end. That's just the beginning. That is to get an interview. That's the entry card, right? Don't think that you're writing a press release and it's done. Then you have to pitch. And what we say in marketing is it's the law of 7. So you keep going. And the same with marketing campaigns is the same law of 7, which you probably know from being a marketer, is that you don't create a nice ad and place it one time. It's all about frequency, and people don't act, whatever your call to action is, they don't act until they've heard it a few times, right? In a lot of different ways, whether it's radio or podcast. I think the next one is you, right?
No, I don't think so. It's you. You can use this.
I can't really see what slide.
Your brand.
Oh, branding. I can just stand right here. So branding is, is everything from your logo design to your look and feel. Here at the college, I came into a department that was pretty well organized, so they had everything customized with what font you use, what logos you use when, and that's all part of your look and feel. So press releases and interviews do help identify your brand identity. Everything that you create will have that same look and feel. You might select certain colors for your creative. And then certainly your website is going to be, in this day and age, your website is probably one of the most important brand to tell people who you are. And I assume all of you work on websites, right?
I have a question.
Sure.
I have like a full-time day job. I work with the conservation district during the day here, but then we have our farm job too. And so we don't have a website for the farm, but we do a Facebook page. Can you, and I've wondered a little bit if that's sufficient enough or if we really need to, and maybe as we grow, we will.
I've had a lot of really small clients that just when Facebook became so hot that was, if they had time to devote to something digital, they're getting the most traction there, and it's a conversation. That's what's so nice about Facebook, is that you can share other people's content. It's not just a one-way discussion. So I would say that's totally fine. I would just then make sure, then I would make sure in your email you have a link to your website, to your Facebook page, and that you're really using that as much as possible. Sorry, go ahead.
Sometimes I've noticed that because I'm working with folks who sell local food, and they won't put any contact information on their Facebook page. So if that's your only online presence, make sure you have an email. I'm totally understand if you don't want to have your cell phone up there. That's if you don't have a landline.
Yeah.
But having an email up there, so because you can get to a Facebook page, like say Google your phone is saying they will come up. But then if they don't have a way, they can message you through Facebook, of course,
Because you're making it more difficult for
Yes.
people. You need to make it easier. So I think today, especially, Facebook is not doing what it was with the contacts that, so I would recommend it makes sense to do a page.
Makes sense to do what?
A web,
A web page.
web
Yeah,
page,
if she
web-
has time, and there's
Yeah.
really a
And
lot
there's
of.
costs that are associated with that too, so.
But no, that's what I'm saying, there's content that you have in the Facebook page already there that you can map over.
Yeah, I think both, if you can do both, great, and there's so many wonderful, easy to use websites, CMSs, Wix is one of them, not that expensive at all. And you don't have to have lots of pages, but Melissa is right, I go to a lot of Facebook pages where people don't even put what town they're in. Like I was looking,
at the farmer's market, I want to follow up to introduce myself. I should have done my little elevator pitch from my CWC role. And I can't figure out, I end up Facebook messaging him because I don't know how else to contact him.
yeah, I mean, your contact information is so important. And so another thing with branding that you'll see, some of you will get emails from me, I also included my branding below my e-signature, a couple sentences about the college, what we do. That's part of our brand. I describe where our campuses are, what we focus on, so you can use that too. Any other questions on branding? No? It's very important, and I think it does go back to once you're building your business and you're thinking mission, vision, values, that's translated into your branding. So we just talked about that. Good marketing generates positive print, broadcast, and online media coverage that communicates your business to your target audiences. And I think that's super important is, again, thinking, oh, you can't be everything to everyone, and sometimes we get caught up in that you want everyone to be your client, or just focus on when you originally started, staying true to what your mission is and who your target audience is. And then I think anytime you're spending a dime on marketing, or even your time when you're devoting to building a Facebook page or a website, what's your ROI? Do you have a call to action and really looking at that, making sure that anything you're spending, that you're seeing a return on investment?
So I have a question, Jennifer. I recently got called by Cowboys State Navy because, with the egg shortage, everyone's getting chickens. And they're like, is it really that easy to keep a chicken? It can be. There's things you should learn about it, but backyard chickens can be pretty easy. So I visited with this gal on the phone about it, and I asked her to review it forward to print that was against their policies. But she said
you can't.
Depending on the media.
Yeah.
And
You can always ask.
You can always ask. She said she could call me back and read me back my quotes, which she forgot to do. But then went to print with all sorts of misspelling of my names and inaccuracies. And she did not list my business name, which I was like, why didn't you put the business name? And she found me through my business website. So then I lost my free advertising. And I was like, I just sound like Melissa and Lander with the chickens. And I was like, well, there went my positive print.
No, that is if somebody does, first of all, I studied journalism in college. You would never say to USA Today, Washington Post, can I read the article? It's against church and state. Maybe, trade publications maybe. But in journalism, we don't have a right to ask a journalist to see the story or have them read anything back. It's different maybe in trade. When they make an error, it's your job to say, there was an error in the story, you're very kind, you don't call them screaming, you're starting a relationship with them. Oh, thank you so much, but there was, you spelled my name wrong, and I don't sell chickens, whatever. Would you consider, first of all, I need a correction, and could you do another story? And then you have, you keep that relationship going. And working with the press is a relationship. You're going to don't assume that every time you're sending them something, they're going to cover it. But get to know them, and get to know them in person too, because those are your #1 marketers. Beth and I have worked on a few great stories recently where the journalist was going in a different direction, and we brought her back in, and so it's very valuable. And again, like I said earlier, media relations, press relations is more valuable than when you buy an ad, because people know you're buying that ad. If somebody's writing a positive review of you, that's third-party endorsement. It's just a lot more powerful. Once you've landed your good story or have your correction, then that has a life all its own. Don't let a to just go away. Use it, reuse it, put it in all your marketing materials, post it on your website, ask the outlet, would it be okay for us to link it on our website? They'll say yes, usually. So.
Is it okay to, like, I would worry if I was giving advice about how to keep a chicken alive, that journalist actually got my advice right. So is it okay to say, I get what you're saying about, I don't think you read the copy, but can you say, I really need to stress that this is talked about and that this is said, so that, because if I would worry, I wouldn't want my name associated with some shoddy advice out there that might kill a bunch of people's chickens.
Right. So in that, we'll use this situation. So usually with your media relations, you'll have fact sheets. So if you put them, you're giving it to them on a piece of paper. So if you're worried that something you said might be misconstrued, then send an email with the temperature has to be X, Y, Z or whatever. You give it to them a la carte, but so that they can't make a mistake, right?
So, in this instance, I didn't initiate it with a press release, I just got a phone call.
You got a phone call.
But to get that in print, it's harder to get the facts wrong if you have it already typed up for you, right? And I'm not sure if this gal was using a recorder, not she didn't tell me she was recording the conversation over the phone. It's really easy when you're listening to someone help, and this gal didn't have any chicken experience, talk about chickens, and you're writing fiercely, right? So, but I can follow that up with my fact sheet, which I don't have. Maybe I should create one.
That's where having a message ahead of time, knowing what messages you want out.
But you can get
great that.
Yeah. So I've had that happen a lot actually, where all of a sudden I have a person that it's very clear to me that they've never been a journalist, and maybe they're an intern and they're covering something really important, and you're like, oh God. So
I felt that way talking to someone who did not understand chickens on the phone.
So I think that you just have to be really proactive, and I think I actually did do exactly what you said. I said, oh, can I read it first? And I was like, slapped on the head. They won't. They usually will not let you read it first. And if they've made a mistake, it's up to the ownership of whatever publication that is and the journalist to make it right. And quite honestly, if they're doing something really bad news, they shouldn't be working there. And I mean, at that point, you do say to the managing editor, this is a real embarrassment. It's, then you kind of are in a crisis communication mode, which we can talk about.
Well, maybe I should say in this article, my name was spelled multiple ways in the same article, and I was like, boy, this was not proofread, like
So
at any stage. Like misspelling one way, the entire article is one
Will you
thing.
send that article to
I
me?
will. I read it, and I'm like, this is online. Oh.
I mean, yeah, and actually, so you can ask to take that down immediately, but
maybe I should do that. I have not done that. I should. Yeah,
so I can help you.
Let's talk more about crisis communication.
Yeah, but I think it really is important that that you've thought about what messages you want out. So in your case, the name of your business and who you are, and if part of your business is because you want people to raise healthy chickens, that you want people to know how to do that, you include that. So whether you're pushing for them to talk about you or they just randomly call you, you're ready to share that message. You know what it is you want to say, and then you can reinforce it with the fact sheet.
But I think, back in the day, I studied journalism in college, and it really was separation of church and state. It's changed so much. There are tons of digital outlets out there where people are just starting to write with them but don't have journalism backgrounds. And so, after you've done the interview, I would also say, make sure you take the journalist's name, you've got their email, you've got their phone number, and you follow up with an email, because that way, if you had sent the email, they could see in your e-signature how to spell your name and what your title was. So I think, but yes, I do want to see that. I have to keep an eye on that. So we talked a little bit about if you are going to write a press release, and I recommend that everybody does. Again, it's a free way to market yourself in your community. That the style that we use is Associated Press style. It's a little bit different than MLA or Chicago Manual style. That's pretty specific in how you do times, like 7 p.m. It's lowercase p dot. It's just a style of writing that all news outlets use. You can easily Google it. So you know how to write a strong headline. It's usually going to be 7 words or less in your headline. At the beginning of your release, you put what city. So the release is here. I write Riverton, Wyoming is where it's being released from. You want to try to get everything, your main message in that first graph. Second and third graph, more anecdotal quotes from your executives or yourself that the journalist can just pick up and reuse. Sometimes they will run your press release exactly as it is, and you want to write it that way because, as we know, the field has changed so much, so you want to give everything to the journalists a la carte, so they don't have to call you necessarily. They're going to pick up your release, run it as a story. You've got images attached, your headshot, or I don't know, a property that you're trying to sell, some beautiful photograph. Make sure that when you're providing photos that you're not going to send them something really high resolution that's going to crash their system. I think, between like 300 DPIs or less. But something that's anecdotal. And sometimes I do send a couple images, or I'll actually create a Google Drive with a bunch of different photos for them that they can download. Photography will sell your story, and that's really important.
Can I suggest logo, because I know we've changed ours? Well, I worry about that because there are old versions of our logo out there that aren't anywhere close to what we've rebranded in the last year and a half.
So logos are great, and they're usually for internal, like your rack cards, your magazines, your email. In media relations, they will not take anything, like they don't use logos in media stories. They will use your headshot. They'll use anything that doesn't. Sometimes people will give me photography that with someone's, you know how people do with cursive. This photo is by Melissa, and it has her. That you have to provide an image without any copy on it.
So you couldn't put your logo in your image?
Not for media relations.
Okay. Has to be watermark free is what you're saying.
Yeah, thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Provide
No watermarks.
They would like a photo credit and a title though.
Photo credits are super important, and as you probably saw, maybe 15 years ago, what magazine started, they were so good with it. It wasn't Time, it was, there are a lot of magazines where they actually have beyond just the writers, and that your credit line also tells the story. So you can do a lot with credit lines. I personally don't say photo by Jennifer Marshall, that doesn't matter. I will say courtesy of Central Wyoming College, but I'll also say where it is. So there's a big thing, so what I'm saying is provide 2 to 3 images in JPEG format. And again, I'm going back to that law of the rule of 7, that some journalists are gonna be really angry if you walk into their office and say, hey, did you get my press release? Other journalists, old school, want to sit down and talk to you. I am not faxing anymore, so I'm going to remove the fax. You know how old I am now. But yes, follow up if you really want this story and you know that you want it in the Cheyenne Post or Casper Star Tribune, and it's like that's your target audience, then it does go a long way, not just sending the release. If you're in Casper, you're going to stop by the news outlet and you're going to give them a beautiful press kit with your images and all of that. Handing someone a press kit goes a long way.
Okay, you can't just drop that kind of a press kit. What's supposed to be in your press kit?
Yes, so we'll talk about, so press kit could be, it'll definitely be a couple of your releases. It will be some collateral that you've created. It could be the Ag Complex Annual Appeal. It could be your rack card. You'll always have your business card in your press kit, and then you could have a thumb drive with your images to make life easier for them. So it's basically your collateral, whatever your news announcement is, images, and your business card.
And a reason, I'll just pitch this in, Beth and I were talking about, the reason a hard copy press kit versus, you could drop all that digitally these days, right? Is because it doesn't get lost in your email inbox.
Yeah, and you need to do both.
On the desk. So.
Yeah, you need to do both. Also, I just want to recommend to all of us that a lot of us use abbreviations and acronyms and this and that. If you're in a really niche industry, just stay away from the jargon. you might be writing, they might be writing for someone that doesn't know anything about farming. So just try to stay away from abbreviations and jargon lingo in your media relations. What else? I think that's it.
Are you gonna, are you, so one of the hardest things for me is that darn headline. So are you trying to count, like, what, are there rules of thumb aside from 7 and smaller, but what other things?
You're basically trying in those 5 words to give a synopsis of what you're writing about. But if you want it to be eye-catching too. So, but you also want it to be true, like it's going to the heart of whatever story you're telling.
Would you like to hear the headline on this article I was referring to?
Yes.
Yes, so well, it's way more than 5 words, but it does catch your attention. Wyomingites are flocking to chicken raising, but is raising chickens as easy as a TikTok video? So totally broke all, captivating perhaps, but broke your 5 words or less.
Yeah. I mean, it changes. This is just a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions on press releases, media relations? Oh, one thing I didn't share with you guys is that I use a software called Meltwater. So staying up on who is writing the stories, it changes so much. So if you know that you want to be, like, for example, Enroll Today, or Enroll Wyoming, where would you love to see a news story about what you're doing?
It's a statewide organization, so.
All of them?
Yes.
All of them. Okay, pick your favorite.
Right now, we're trying to do more in Fremont County.
Okay, so Riverton Ranger, new ownership. They're about to launch a new website. Just like all of us with our digital footprint, you want to make sure that when you go to About in Riverton Ranger, that on their masthead, you can see that the new managing editor is Sarah Almquist Squires. That is who, when you send your press release, you're going to say, "Hi Sarah, I heard you just started a new job. Welcome to Wyoming. Here's a little information on what we're doing. I'd love," and not, oh, I'm sorry, I want to say, not I'd love to talk to you or call me back. Don't do that. Just say, here's information, let me, you don't want to make it they have to come back to you, but that they have your information, because they are writing 20 stories a day. So just giving everything easily, but what I would say is every single news outlet has a good masthead, and you can figure out who to send it to. And usually, if you're really at the high, you're covering high stuff, then go to the managing editor and they'll assign it.
So what was Meltwater, I'm sorry?
So Meltwater is a software distribution company. There are free ones, and you can always, it basically we have a whole, you can go in there and say, okay, I want to send information about all of our tribal talks and powwow to anyone that's covering anything American Indian.
Okay.
And it will pull up for me anyone that writes in that beat.
Yeah.
They can be expensive, but having to do the research on your own of who to send stuff to can be time consuming. And so with, you get to know, once you're asking that question, who's my target audience, you also want to know, what is my target audience reading? Maybe some of them aren't reading newspapers. Maybe they're only getting their information from TikTok. But it helps you put that structure together.
I don't have a TikTok channel yet. From that title, should I get one, Jennifer? Is everyone
No,
learning
and by
about
the way,
chickens
we
on
just took
TikTok?
our TikTok station down for CWC.
Oh,
Yeah.
because of the stuff with the U.S. government?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
see.
Okay. So Bill Gates said, if I had $1 left, I'd spend it in PR, and I agree with that. It's free. It is, you've got to establish those relationships with the managing editors and the writers. It goes a long way. And it's not a one-time thing. You want to at least have a 6-month campaign and just maybe trying to get a news release out once a month. Or in your situation, it could be just writing to County 10 saying, hey, I've got this wonderful business. Would you guys be willing to cover this for me? just once a month, giving them an image or a quote. I just wanted to show this. I'm not sure if you all have seen this yet. Another thing that we're doing more and more in marketing and media relations, a colleague of mine who works for Sage West, she's the marketing director, she's now, when she sends press releases out, is including her video content. And so this is a piece that we did here at the college for our regenerative farming program. I might be let's see. Have you guys seen this? Have you been in other classes?
My name is Ethan Page. I'm the faculty of local food and ag at CWC. So basically, I kind of oversee the 2-year degree we have for regenerative small-scale farming. The biggest component of that is our crop production class, where we take students through the growing season from May, seeding, all the way to harvest, to put in a garden bed for the winter in October. So this program was grant funded through the USDA Beginning Farmer Rancher Development Program. And really, the whole goal for this is to develop new growers for our region, for our area. So the biggest part, you know, like I said, our crop production class, where we have students through the growing season. So these plots, we have about half an acre total, and we grow everything from zucchini, squash, tomatoes, eggplant. We do a lot of cut flowers, cucumbers, beans. We're constantly changing, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and really demonstrating how to run a small fruit and vegetable farm. So students go through all the challenges of the year as well. This is really a demo, you know, of what can be done and how to do it. We've got our wash station that was partially funded by the Lore Foundation in addition to our USDA grant. Basically, we bring the produce through the system. We have a couple of sinks for our dunking and soaking stuff, and then we spray off some of our root crops and carrots and things like that on here. So we try to teach like pretty efficient processing. They come through here. We're not doing a lot today. We're doing mostly tasting today, which is the best part. But come through here, we get into our spinner. It's a converted washing machine to be a spinner. And then it gets bagged up and into our cooler. So our cooler is part of our bigger shipping container. This is mostly our packing area, so we'll bag up a lot of our like individual bags of greens or cherry tomatoes, as you can see, and weigh them out to get them ready for sale. We have our cooler, which is one part of this, and this is run by a pretty clever invention called a CoolBot that essentially hijacks the AC unit to act as a fridge. Which is a great demo for small-scale growers, a very cost-effective way to create a walk-in refrigerator. Part of what we want to do, right, is demonstrate what can be done on a small scale for, on a budget. As part of a separate grant program, we received funding to put a few of these.
So it's not that long, but what I wanted to share with you all is that video is super important. If you're not a videographer, if you have a smartphone, you can actually create really nice videos on your iPhone. I actually was in a lecture once with Annie Leibowitz, who's a really incredible photographer, and I said, well, what's your favorite camera? And she said, my iPhone. So you can do a lot with your phone, really, nowadays. What I would also recommend is that if you're going to be sending it to people or putting it on your website or your Facebook page, that you can also promote it. So even for $25 or you set a budget, you can promote it on your YouTube station to get people more views. So we throw a little bit of money behind this. I think it was $500 and we got 18,000 views on this video. So that's a whole nother thing is digital buys, which I'm happy to talk about as well. That's, you know, if you're gonna go to the effort of creating something, put a little money to push it out there too, I would say. So media relations, what are the best opportunities for your news stories? During interviews, use every opportunity to restate your message. Just try to stay simple with that elevator pitch that you come up with. Again, stay away from jargon. And find creative ways of explaining something. And don't be patronizing. Just if you're in something that you're I don't know, theoretical engineer or a chemist or something, speak in a way that the layperson can understand what you're talking about. So this is the marketing mix that I use, and I put at the top what I think is one of the most important things, again, earned media. That's newspaper, magazine, and radio and digital placement. These are the target audiences that are important to us here at Central Wyoming College. So Riverton Ranger, we work with them regularly. We work with County 10 quite a bit. And when I say radio, I'm not just saying radio interviews or radio spots that we help create, which maybe are about 15-second spots. Also podcasts are really good. When you do have someone interview you and you ask for that WAV file so that you can actually use it again. You can put it on your Facebook page, you can put it on your website. Reuse any good content over and over and over again. You were laughing at something. Oh, did you? No, okay. So website, again, I think the website, always having all of your information on your website. Social media, once you do create a social media channel, you're gonna have to manage it. And so what I've unfortunately seen happen here is that people build a Facebook page and then they're not managing it. And so when I started here at the college a year ago, we had 66 Facebook pages. And so for me, as the brand manager of the college, that's concerning because you want to, if you have a call to action, you want it in the most powerful place, right? And so you don't want to have to go to 66 places to say that. There's certainly, it makes sense to have separate pages for athletics or the rodeo, but once you've built a page, to kill it is really hard, and it dilutes your brand. So,
did you kill some of them?
We're trying. Yeah. So people do come say, hey, I've got a great idea, I want a new Facebook page. I'm like, hey, just give me your content and we'll put it on the main channel, which already has 6,000 people that are paying attention to it. Building a page, it takes a while to get people to follow you. So I'm not doing TikTok anymore, so I'm removing that. And then the SEO and SEM, I don't know if anyone's interested in that, but that really does help if you're putting energy into your website. Doing the search engine optimization and search engine marketing is very important so people can find you. What I see happen a lot is people create great content and they have one viewer, and there's no ROI there, right? I think also, right up there with earned media, probably one of your more powerful tools is going to be grassroots. You have to be able to have your family and friends and your colleagues believe in your product too. So pitch whatever you're going to need to pitch. I mean, YouTube is a little different, but you know, being able to turn that call to action and believe in what you're doing. Or in Beth's situation, alum. So the alum of Central Wyoming College is #1. They're the ones that are going to tell the story of why they loved going to school here and why you should. So she does an alumni newsletter. We do student profiles all the time, and they perform like, I want to say maybe 8 times better than our other posts around events. People like to read about other people. So even if you're choosing an image for an ad or a cover of something, have a person in it that looks like they're enjoying what they're doing. As a small farmer, what is, oh, there's a typo there. What is your strategy for media buys? So maybe even making a list of, I saw some great publications out here today that I want to advertise our regenerative small-scale farming in. So yeah, make a list of where you would like to see people writing about you. Again, this is how when I'm pitching something, I'm thinking regionally. So the Denver Post, I mean, if I can land a story in Denver Post, I think the circ there is 300,000. And my little papers here, which they're all very important, like Buffalo Bulletin or Riverton Ranger, we're talking 3,000. So the higher circ is great, depending on what and for us it would probably be Enroll Today or Telling a Story. The Ag and Equine, we're working, obviously this college is really committed to Ag and Equine, so these are some of the places where I'm placing ads for meat science or for our new ag complex that's coming on board next year, this year actually. Streaming, I do use a streaming service, it's called Spectrum, and it's actually quite affordable. So if I wanted to advertise in this area, I give a woman our zip codes where I want to be placed, and then I can say, I'd like it just a banner ad. I could say, I'd like to be on the History Channel, I'd like to be on Lifestyle, or so you can choose your channels and then our banner would come up, depending, so you can, it's pretty cool and it's very affordable. So if anyone's interested in that, ask me and I'll put you in touch with Linda Terrell. This is part of that. So with identifying what your target, what your zip codes are, you can actually see all the different, so I definitely go on Nat Geo. If I'm doing sports stuff, it'd be sports stations. And I just did a 3-month campaign for $3,000, which was very effective in terms of clicks and impressions. Anybody have any questions on that? So with digital, there's 3 different ways that's part of this mix. So earned would be media coverage. So you get a story from the Buffalo Bulletin, use it. Use it on your Facebook page, use it on your website, use it even in a press kit. When people are sharing, all that is earned. For paid, like I mentioned, pay-per-clicks, that can be expensive, but if you whittle it down to zip codes, what's so nice about the digital campaign is that you can actually track. With print, it's very hard to know what the ROI is. So the 3 that you own is your website, your blog, your profiles, your email, and your social pages.
Jennifer, what are native ads?
That is when you actually design an ad that is an ad generated by the vendor. So I'll show you. So it's like, yeah. And we didn't even talk about influencers. We're not doing that a lot in Wyoming, but it's one of the hottest things right now. So if you know someone that's a spokesperson that has incredible following on Instagram or Facebook, you can ask them if they would help promote whatever it is you're trying to promote. And you can do it paid or unpaid, but using influencers that have lots of traction digitally can be very powerful.
And if I could add on to that, so last summer, there was a gal who came through who's a rock climber who's really interested in local food. She was a paid Patagonia influencer, and she came butcher chickens with me. Wow. So then she actually took video of butchering chickens and posted it to her. She's like at 20,000 followers on Instagram.
Wow.
And then tagged my account. I don't think I really went out that much, but still, that's the power of that. Way more national reach and a very different, you should be like it's rock climbing followers.
Yeah.
But still, like, oh, I'm in Wyoming rock climbing, and went to butcher chickens.
I mean, I've seen it too, and maybe you know about this. You can also have your accounts taken over for a day or two by, I see breweries do this all the time.
Well, you can ask to have them, I did that for Range Market, who's a national meat market.
Yeah.
I was a social media takeover for theirs.
Yes.
And I just did, they did only have beef, so I was like the odd person who was doing chickens.
Yeah.
In the middle of winter, there wasn't that much going on.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
You could ask the organization or the business to be their social media takeover person.
Right. And so do them all if you're just on digital, and it really optimizes that mix. And we've talked a little bit about this. Things have changed quite a bit in the social media market, a lot of it due to politics. But really, depending on what your product is, I mean, I still feel that Facebook is, I mean, it's a higher demographic in terms of age. Instagram for us is very important if we're trying to recruit high school students. Instagram is, and same with Snapchat, but I don't use Snapchat that much for my campaigns. Do you guys use Snapchat at all? No? What social media platforms do you use?
Like in general?
Yeah.
Facebook mostly.
Facebook.
That's all I've seen.
Instagram
Yeah.
and Facebook.
Yeah. Does everyone have a social media account in the room? What's your favorite social media account?
Mine?
Yeah, either of you.
YouTube.
YouTube.
I sold a house that way.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like when the farm tour that we heard yesterday at Lakeview is that a lot of the ideas that he gets is from YouTube of how to do stuff. So YouTube is incredible. Hashtags helps you be part of a bigger, and are we supposed to be done at 2:30?
No, 3.
Okay, good. We have a little bit of time. So hashtags helps you be part of a bigger conversation, right? So does everyone know what a hashtag is? Everybody? Okay, cool. So like for this, obviously you would use the hashtag farming or agriculture. I always use in the post that I do for the college, Central Wyoming College. It just helps with that bigger landscape of social media to be part of a bigger conversation. It's very powerful to have hashtags, and then even in your post to link back to wherever that call to action is, whether it's apply today or donate to the college, I will link to that particular page.
I have a quick question.
Oh, sure.
Me and my boss keep debating how many hashtags is too much to put on a post.
Okay, that's a good conversation. What do you think?
It's the same thing, like asking me my favorite color. It changes every little bit too.
I can tell you, I mean, it is kind of annoying sometimes where I see people using like 30 hashtags. And there are people, I live in Du Bois, and there are people up there that use Jackson Hole in their hashtag. And I'm thinking, well, that's not authentic at all. You're not in Jackson Hole. And they're just trying to get that hit. And I don't think that, so I would say what feels authentic to the story. I usually do 5. And also I use just so you guys know, I use a software called Sprout Social to post on my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter account. So with Sprout Social, because I'm also doing Twitter, I have a limit of how many characters I can do, which I think is good.
So, thinking back to what we talked about, the components of a plan, the timing of your communication is really critical. This was really unfortunate timing for this advertiser because the gentleman who killed his son did it with a knife. Sometimes you can't avoid that. Obviously, when they put that in, they didn't know that story was going to run. But that being said, I mean, you need to think about the timing of what you're doing and how that can either hurt you or positively, or be positive for you. So if say there's a big chicken convention going on here in Riverton, great time to put an ad or put some media out about what you're doing with chickens, so you can really capitalize on the good things that are going. If there's a new, farmer and rancher training happening, people are coming from all over the country, that's a good time to let people know that if they're having trouble finding traditional financing, there's options. And so really thinking about the timing of what you're doing. Jennifer, do you want to add a little bit onto that as well?
Beth hears me say this all the time. What I see everybody do is they don't market far enough in advance. So the timing of communications, and when we're going to talk about crisis communications, is you just, timing is so important when you're launching a campaign. I usually like to say if I'm launching a campaign that I'm strategically putting it together at least 6 months beforehand, so that I can actually design and then execute and deploy and have a strategy. So yes, timing in marketing and communications is essential.
The other thing to consider is who is going to be delivering your message. So I like this because it's funny. I mean, do you really trust that those cows are telling you to eat more chicken because it's in your best interest or because of theirs? And that goes, obviously you're not going to probably have the Chick-fil-A cows as your spokesperson, but you want to have whoever's speaking for you be able to represent your organization, represent your business, be credible, be someone that people are going to trust. Think about if you're a small family farm, do you want your children talking to the reporter? Maybe, maybe not. Thinking back to the gluten-free oats, how powerful would that be to have the kids say, yeah, my dad started this business because I was getting sick all the time and he wanted to make sure that there was food available so I wouldn't be sick. Hugely powerful message. Or you could have a 9-year-old say something completely inappropriate. So really think about who represents your business when they're talking to the media, especially when we get into that crisis communication, because in a crisis, you don't want the wrong message getting out. So crisis communication, and I'm going to let Jennifer talk about it, but it's incredibly important. You don't want this to be you up there on the news. Sometimes things happen though. So we've had a tough winter. You guys have had a particularly tough winter. I'm going to pick on Melissa again. So what happens, all of a sudden, maybe all of her chickens died. They all got buried in the snow and they all died, and and all of a sudden, yep, she said, the news is calling her say, hey, we heard you have 100 or 100,000, I don't know how many you have, thousands of chickens died. All these baby chicks are now dead. She needs to be prepared. And so Jennifer, who is the queen of communications and marketing, she's going to talk about what you need to do in order to manage that, because that could happen to any of you. What happens if, you guys have been out there and all of a sudden you realize that you've been scammed. There's all these people who aren't eligible for your programs, they made you think that they are, and they've got a whole bunch of federal money that they weren't supposed to. Or you ended up selling, someone some, land, or a bunch of people some land, and it was like this big Ponzi type of scheme. Something could happen, you need to be prepared.
So just having, like you have a marketing plan, you have a communications plan, a crisis communication plan is really great. What I see people do, like if there's a problem, if it's a personnel problem or a product problem, and they're not monitoring either the news or their social channels, and they're not responding, that is going to cause, it's going to snowball. You're not controlling the message. You always want to be controlling your message. And so communicating whatever that truth is and letting the media or your followers on your Facebook pages know that you are aware of it and that you're taking action is really critical, rather than no response. I think, a perfect example is someone writes a scathing review of a hotel, and they say, oh, the staff was horrible, my sheets had bed bugs in them, and, at least a GM is going to say, thank you very much for letting us know that we're so embarrassed by this, we will look into it, and then they actually call them behind the scenes and say, please come back at our expense, we want to make this right. I've also represented a lot of law firms in the past, and so as you know, attorneys like to say, no comment, no comment, and I get that. I get that when you're in the middle of a court case, but it's going to go a lot further for you if you are at least feeding information and letting people know that you are honest and you are on top of it. Any questions on crisis communications?
We put together a little list of some things. So you may not know what crisis is going to happen, but if you have some of these components already thought out ahead of time, just in case something happens. You know, who would be the person? Who would be the contact person? What are the key messages about your business? Because just because it's a crisis doesn't mean you can't still emphasize that you treat your customers like family, and that's the most important thing. Or that, you know, you're in business because you value the welfare of chicks, and that's why you started the business, and you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that nothing like that ever happens again. Don't start a rumor, but that Melissa kills chicks, because she does everything in her power to prevent that from happening.
I did have some chickens drown once. It wasn't my fault, but it was your neighbor's tailwater. So it does happen. I had to call that customer and go, your chicks were supposed to be delivered today, and they just drowned.
Yeah. But knowing what your
delivery is going to be late.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Well, I didn't have any chicks. I had to refund her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to.
But knowing what that key
Call
message is.
the neighbors did, right? Like,
yeah. But knowing what your key message is and having that prepared so you can share that. Knowing ahead of time, if something were to happen, who is it you want to contact? So as much of this as you can fill out before a crisis gives you a better plan to move forward. And then the last two, or the last one is clear your schedule. Make sure you have time. So that you can put together that prepared statement so that so you can give them what they need to know and that you have time to deal with it.
We did have a situation here a year ago where we got a call from a national journalist that was upset over something that had to do with COVID and masks. And so we prepared we had a statement ready to go, all of the leadership. And then unfortunately then the war started in Ukraine. And the journalist, I mean, because I was sweating bullets. It was my first month on the job. And he just turned and started writing about Ukraine instead of masks in Riverton. And I was like, thank God, but we had our statement prepared. So that helps you. I mean, you might be nervous, you know, maybe there's a disgruntled employee that thinks you're awful and is going to put stuff out to the media. You still have your statement prepared, and that will make you feel awful.
Isn't the rule that you say it first, say it fast, say as much as you can, say it often? And there's one word, I can never remember it, but there's like the 5 rules of crisis communication.
Oh, yeah. So I talked about this a little bit today, and I just want to emphasize it again, is that you have so many free ways to market yourself, and use them. I mean, I can't tell you how annoying it is to me when I get an email from somebody and I don't have their phone number.
Thank you. Please put your signature
you don't have, and I mean, and you can also make the phone number, and I can help you with this, so that if I'm driving and I'm trying to get to a meeting with you, I can click on it and I'll call you. It's a reciprocal link. It's very easy to do. Make the people that you're doing business with, make their lives easier, that they can contact you with